We're that much closer to the weekend. A little bit of severe weather in parts of the Northeast, heavy rains across the lower Ohio and Tennessee valleys, extending into the plains and into the Southwest with flash flooding and flash flood watches. And we look ahead to the long range, which has more summertime weather, and we'll talk about the possibility of some uh, let's call it brutal heat, maybe for the end of next week, maybe another heat wave, depending on how it sets up. All that and so much more on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show, which is brought to you by, there he is,
Yes.
the newest member of the Chaffee household, Joe. It's Cornelius the rat snake. And he, there's a, well, JJ found him yesterday. There was a very a small dead boxwood at the edge of the driveway, and I mean he really blends right in it. I didn't see it until JJ was sniffing around there, and then suddenly jumped back, and then I
Oh,
saw something wiggle. So I immediately thought maybe it was a copperhead, which scared the daylights out of me because those are venomous. But rat snakes are actually not harm. They're not harmful. They are constrictors, so they basically look for rats or mice,
yeah,
things of
yep.
that nature. So they're actually good to have around. And I found them yesterday morning. He's still on that boxwood point, just still. I mean, he's changed his position. He's changed positions a couple of times, but he's just like waiting. And if you again, if somebody didn't point him out to you, you wouldn't be able to see him because he just is perfectly camouflaged. He's the same color as the dead boxwood, and he ain't short either. Let's put it that way.
Well, we have a few of those type of snakes up here in Putnam Valley, and we've run across them over the years. They're not very pretty, but well, it's good that they're doing some. At least they're beneficial, as you pointed out. But they're kind of scary to look at. Longest one I've ever seen around here was like 4 or 5 feet. Um, what
Yeah,
my
he.
son likes to do, what my
he
son likes to do is get the rake. He gets the rake and tries to rake the damn thing up
oh,
and
good
throw it
lord.
in an empty garbage pail that has a plastic bag on it. And then we close the bag and then we drive off, he and I, to some place, some wooded area where we then open the bag and let him go.
Oh,
We take him off property,
I
so to
see.
speak.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. He's fine with all the other critters that are here. So anyhow, welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show, and welcome everybody on the chat board tonight on this Thursday. And just as a reminder, we won't. Joe and I will be taking off through next Monday, which means that we will not be back until next Tuesday. Okay, so it's a 4-day weekend. Not all, there's not much weather going on. We know that heat is coming again, one way or the other, as we go into next week. There are no tropical storms. There are no tropical depressions. There's barely any tropical waves. So there really isn't too much for us to talk about. But we want to mention right off the bat that Barry Goldberg hitting a super chat tonight. Thank you, Barry. And Barry, who's been um, taking care of his wife, Diane. She walked for her first time today using parallel bars, and he sends everybody his thanks and for prayers and support. And that's good to hear, Barry. Good to hear.
Yes, indeed, very, very good. And we wish Barry's wife all the best in the days to come. And now, for most of us, it might just well be just to, when we get to the latter part of next week, just to sit indoors and not move at all, because Joe, it still looks like we're on our way toward a spell for at least a few days of extreme heat. Like, we're talking like 95 to 100
Right.
by this time next week. And,
And
all things, yeah.
I was going to
Well,
say, and I think the way this may play out is, we started getting these weather fronts. I don't even want to call them cold fronts because they're not really cold fronts. They're just basically weak dew point fronts, if you want to put it that way. And they're coming
Right.
through every couple of days. We actually had one go through last night. We're going to have one going through tonight. We have another one coming through tomorrow. There'll be another one on Tuesday. Then I think what's going to happen is we're going to get that ridge is going to build in, and we're going to get those two brutally hot days. I think Thursday and Friday of next week. But then we may get another weather front to come through and bring us down a bit for a day or so, maybe next weekend. And then,
Sunday the 7th.
right, and then after that, the heat ridge not only comes back, but both the European and the GFS suggest that that heat ridge is going to couple again, is going to couple with the Bermuda high, and that we could go into the week of the 8th with several days of brutal heat and humidity. The humidity will probably be a bit uneven. Some days a little lower, some days higher. And then ultimately, maybe at the end of that week of the 8th, we'll get a cold front with a deeper trough, and perhaps then we'll get a substantial break. So possibly and by the way, we could get a break. We could potentially see a break come. I know I'm jumping way ahead here, but we potentially could see a break come next Friday, after next Friday for a day or two. It still may mean the temperatures behind that weather front will be trying to push up toward or even into the 90s. Just that there'll be some dew point relief. So we may be putting together this may be another situation where we're putting together a lengthy streak of 90 plus days.
Yeah, and that's something it's not so much the heat, but now it's really getting to me about the dry weather because my lawn with each passing day turns a new shade of brown. And uh, right now the radar is showing. I don't know if you want to show it or I want to show it.
You show it.
That they've
You do the radars in the
all right.
north. You do the radars in the northeast
Okay, I will do
tonight.
that right now. And here we go. We have it up on the screen right now for your edification. And we do, and I live here. This is where the scroll, where you see the arrow. That's about where I am. But as you can see, there was one shower that kind of dried up before it ever had a chance to do anything. And now there's another little band to my north and west, and then a second band even further away to the north and west. So I'm hoping that something is going to come out of some of this because I have not had any kind of measurable rainfall here now, going back to a week ago last Monday. So this makes this, let's see, 8, 9, 10. That's like 10 straight days without any rain. Combine that with, again, the very hot temperatures that we've had, and it's been rough. It's been really bad. And it might even be a little shower threat here tomorrow evening, but I do want to underscore the word a little. And then after that, we'll go into a spell of dry weather again. I'll be at lower humidity conditions for Saturday and for Sunday. And then back we go into the heat, haze, and humidity here for the start
Well,
of next week on Monday.
while you have the radars up, why don't you punch up the Fort Dix radar? Because there are showers and thunderstorms running into southeast PA that are headed maybe for southern New Jersey. And then you could jump up maybe to Boston because there's a really or even one in Maine because there's a really healthy line of storms up that way.
Well, there is a severe thunderstorm watch just to the north of where I am. And there's also another box or another watch area covering a good hunk of New England. And that certainly is warranted considering the thunderstorms that are occurring there right now. There you see the areas of showers that are moving toward central New Jersey. Here's a nice cluster that's located to the north and east, I guess, of Lancaster. And that will probably cross through. It looks like it's going to hold together. It looks like we'll have some showery weather, thundery weather, maybe for Philadelphia and for portions of central and south central Jersey over the next 60 to 90 minutes. As far as up near the Boston area is concerned, here is the Boston radar, although not really. I should go a little bit further north. How about if I try Albany? I think that gives you a better handle.
They may
You
be,
can see this.
yeah, they might be too, well, let me see on my screen. Yeah, you might catch it. You might catch the easternmost end of it. It's in the line is in central Mass and southern, cuts New Hampshire on a diagonal.
Okay, so here we go. Well, this I believe is Gray, Maine, or Portland radar. And you can see, yeah, look at that long, stringy, and intense band of showers and scattered thunderstorms. Now, our good friend Dennis Cassia is in Springfield, Vermont. He's up there a little earlier than I am. He's already getting everything together for the Stellafane Telescope Conference this weekend in Springfield. And I believe it looks like they had a pretty good dousing of rainfall moving through earlier. And now that's part of the line that's now moving across New Hampshire and will probably be affecting central and southern New Hampshire for the next 60 minutes or so.
Yeah, as your loop is moving along, the line seems to be strengthening here, uh, judging from the echoes. If you want, why don't you go to southern Indiana and take a look at what's over there,
Will do, sir.
like Evansville or something?
Well, here is this is Indianapolis, and you can see that there's a broad area of activity that's moving into the southern end of Indiana. Yeah, you're right. I probably should have gone for someplace a little further south, which I will do now.
Yes.
Here we go. And by the way, they had some really devastating floods in portions of Kentucky. In fact, the governor of Kentucky says that by this time tomorrow, he's anticipating not a few fatalities being reported because of the tremendous amounts of rain, over a foot of rain that fell there, especially last night into this morning. And here's something they don't need. They don't need more rain, but it looks like northern sections of Kentucky will be getting into that during the next hour or two.
Yeah, they're still stuck in that old frontal boundary that we've been talking about all this week, and that's where there's been, you know, as you said, the big rains of a foot plus, and in fact, if you switch it back, you can. We'll take a look at the watches that are up as Joe does that. There we go, and then I
Yep.
will bring up the map here. And we've got quite a few flash flood watches up in Kentucky. Not in the northern part of the state, where up near Louisville, for example, in Lexington, where that rain is going to be probably going there. But we do see much of the state, the central and eastern part of Kentucky, under flash flood watches. Much of West Virginia, a small portion of southwestern Virginia, and northeastern Tennessee. By the way, what's left of the severe thunderstorm watch in the Northeast, and this is as of coming up on 7:47 Eastern time. So, as I always say, if you're watching this and you're trying to get a gauge of severe weather in your neck of the woods, make sure you remember that what you're seeing is dated. So make sure you go to weather.gov and go to your local National Weather Service office to get the latest. But that severe thunderstorm watch now, what's left of it is in southern New Hampshire and Massachusetts, west of Boston. We still have a few areas under severe thunderstorm watch. Also, much of the state of except for the southwestern corner of Arizona, the rest of the state is in a flash flood watch with flash flood warnings you see in the dark red into Utah. This has been now. You have to be a little careful here when you talk about the southwestern part of the United States because the ground gets baked like cement. So you could get a quarter to a half an inch of rain and wind up with some serious flash flooding because all the water just has no place. The ground can't soak it in because it's like cement, so everything just runs off. So I I'm going to dig around at some point in the next day or two to see how much rainfall they've actually had, but in total. But it has been going on there, and it's actually has expanded in the last week or so in the Southwest, which has had this really serious long-term drought, and we're talking, the better part of 6 or 7 months worth of mostly dry weather, and so it's been alleviating the drought conditions there. Also, northern Texas, northwest Texas, southeastern Kansas, half of the state of Colorado is under flash flood watches, and they need rain there too. So definitely beneficial, but you don't want to overdo it. Meanwhile, the Pacific Northwest, Northern California, you see in the purple, that's all for excessive heat. As we're seeing patches of very hot weather around the United States now, and then maybe when we get to later next week and beyond, we may see a good portion of the U.S. getting baked away from this what we're heading into in the longer term. And here's a satellite view with the lightning strikes that are going on, and you can see it's active from northwestern North Carolina into Tennessee, into southern Illinois and Indiana. Some scattered stuff along the Gulf Coast. You see the arc that's there up in the northeast, and you again 1 week weather front today, a little bit of dry air behind it, quote unquote, and then another one tomorrow that'll come on through with maybe a shower or thunderstorm with that, and then we get into some dry air for the weekend. And meanwhile, you can see all the moisture up from Mexico, moving, basically moving northward into Arizona and Utah. A lot of moisture there, a lot of thunderstorms, a lot of flashes of lightning showing up here. So at least they're getting some good out of it with alleviating their drought there.
And they need it. I mean, I myself saw it right with my own eyes back at the end of May when I headed out to Nevada and Arizona, and saw just back then how dry it was, and saying to myself afterwards, I said, "My goodness, I hope the monsoon season arrives earlier and is a bit more prolific this particular season or this particular year, because those poor folks out in the Southwest certainly needed it." There is some indication on the latest drought monitor. In fact, let me bring that up here for all to see.
Right, let me switch it. Let me switch it back. There you go. Knock yourself out.
And if I can just get that monitor up there, I'm going to go out in the west, and we'll see.
All right. While you're setting that up, David Fuller hitting super chat tonight. A good beach day until the fog came in for a little while, believe it or not. Ocean water temperature at 74.8. So not quite at David's goal of 80. Got a ways to go yet.
I might add, by the way, my pool has cooled down now. It was a few days ago, it was 94.
Oh, God.
I looked at the thermometer earlier today, and it was down to 88.
So, well,
So it's gone down a full 6 degrees over the last few days, but still a little bit too warm to be, quote, a refreshing dip. Now, you can see here in the western United States, virtually all of the West has one form of drought or dry weather or another. There are a few places like in the Seattle area and portions of Montana that are in the white zone, which means there's nothing really to write home about. But in Arizona, which just a few weeks ago was pretty much an extreme drought, all red, they have now switched over to now what is being referred to as either abnormally dry or a moderate drought. And that is because, again, of all of the activity, all of the rains from the monsoonal thunderstorm activity that's been falling over Arizona for the past week or two. And as you just said, Joe, more to come there in the coming days ahead. Now, I just want to quickly switch over to the Northeast. This is valid now as of July 26th. So this is valid as of today. This is the newest map. And you can see here in the Northeast that we're seeing more and more of those darker shades of, the salmon color, if you will. And in fact, over in sections of eastern Massachusetts, Rhode Island, eastern Connecticut, it looks like they have now gone under severe drought conditions. Here in my neck of the woods, we have what is being categorized as abnormally dry. I disagree. I mean, 10 days, no rain or anything else, I would move that up one notch to moderate drought. They do have moderate drought conditions being reported over in, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger here. This is Pennsylvania. Let's look at New Jersey. And you can see in New Jersey that indeed they are working now on a moderate drought across north central sections of Jersey. Other areas are seeing just abnormally dry conditions, Sussex County, supposedly, well, there's a little bit of a notch right up here toward the uh, High Point State Park area, and Port Jervis in New York, where the three states come together, Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey. Up here, there's a shade of yellow, but most of Sussex County is white, indicating no real problems. And of course, no real problems for central or south central New Jersey, although for southern Jersey, including Atlantic City and Millville, these areas also in an abnormally dry situation. So that's how it stands right now in terms of drought here
Can you take a
in
look at
Northeast.
bring up the southeast?
I will do
I'm
that.
kind of curious because much of the stuff that we've been getting here for weeks. By the way, just to comment on the Southwest in Arizona. I mean, it's been raining there. They've been getting rain for the better part of a month, and they still have only brought it down to a moderate drought. I mean, that just shows you how long it takes to alleviate the dry conditions that they have. And there are some dry
Yeah,
areas here in the Southeast also.
right. There's some areas of mostly abnormally dry conditions. The only places that indicate drought, the word drought or moderate drought, would be in extreme south central Virginia and across a swath of northeastern North Carolina, and also into portions of Alabama, northernmost Alabama. But yeah, all things considered, the southeast is not really all that bad, at least compared to the northeast, and certainly compared to out in the western United States.
Well, there's nothing that's going to uh, there's nothing that's going on in the next 2 weeks except in that zone, that east-west zone that we've been watching from the plains eastward across the lower Ohio Tennessee Valley to the Appalachians there, the Central Appalachians. There's nothing. Once that's done, they're going to join the rest of the U.S. in terms of being under some sort of upper ridge. So all that rain is probably not going to be helpful with regards to alleviating the heat conditions that are going to develop. I mean, I don't see anything in the next couple of weeks that says for some of these areas that says that there's going to be an ample amount of rain because other than these opportunities for thunderstorms, there really isn't much. And you see what happens when we get these opportunities. We really get very little out of it, unless you get one of these cells that goes bonkers over a certain area for an hour or two. But that's so localized. We really could use a widespread type event, and there's just nothing uh, regarding that. I'm going to go ahead and just bring up the European uh, and do the long and take a look at what's going on as far as the long range is concerned. So remember, folks, we've been the basic pattern through much of the summer, going back even before the summer, has been this very active Canadian jet that's been shooting troughs through in the east. Of course, we saw a number of really delightful air masses that came down toward the end of June and the first part of July. But now, with the upper high beginning to really expand, it's forced the jet to move further north. So we're not really getting the cooler air push. We're getting some humidity relief when these troughs go by and these cold fronts that go by, but we're really not getting much more out of it. Now, this current one is going to lift out on Friday night, Saturday morning, and that's going to leave us in a very warm air mass over the weekend, but maybe a little bit of dew point relief that we'll see. And then we're going to start the process ahead of the next trough, and you sort of see it here come Monday, the dip in the jet stream that is coming down out of Canada from an upper low in northern Hudson Bay. You see this dip in the jet stream here, and ahead of that, it's going to start to warm up, and we're probably going to have another setup where by the time we get to Tuesday of next week, we'll be in the 90s. But again, this trough, you want to see that blue come all the way down. And that's just not happening. It's being confined up in Canada because you've got this strong ridge here from the northwestern Gulf extending into the southwest. You also have the Atlantic part of the ridge, the so-called Bermuda High, that is kind of on the flattish side, sitting out in the ocean. And as we go through next week, uh, yeah, those westerlies dip down on Tuesday. We'll get another cold front through here showers and thunderstorms with that. Maybe a little bit of dew point relief into Wednesday, but there's no cool air behind it. It's going to be one of these like we had last week. We had a system go by and the dew points went down, but the temperatures actually went up behind it, and that's what's going to happen this time around. And you can see the ridge building Thursday and Friday. Now, this will put us in position of maybe getting some, you know, some very hot days next Thursday into Friday. But again, another trough. And you got to be careful here, Joe. The European wants to rush this trough through. It comes as it already dropping into the east later on Thursday. The GFS is much slower because it has stronger ridge signatures out in the Atlantic, and there's your upper ridge that's out in the southwest. I just wanted to put the European up because I actually had it up and I didn't want to switch maps. I had it already loaded. So, but it's been sort of overdoing these troughs, and I have a feeling that this one may be overdone and too fast. But once it goes by and lifts out, you see that big upper high, that 597 height that's in Ohio. And that is the heat ridge building eastward into the northeast. So we could argue, we could debate the timing of one of those mini breaks, but ultimately that's all it's going to be because the upper ridge builds right back in. And with that, it's in agreement with the GFS. And now I'll switch over to the GFS so you can take a look at the difference here. The GFS, Joe, does not have, it's got a trough that comes through more like Friday into Saturday. So it would suggest that we would, see extreme heat here probably Thursday and Friday. Then one of those dry line cold fronts that comes through. And then as quick as it comes through, you already start to see the ridge that's back, the upper high that is back to the west in the plains. It's really spread out. It covers the west coast. It goes all the way east into the Ohio Valley. Here's your trough in the east. So you get a temporary dew point reprieve. And then as we move into the week of the 8th, that ridge is really in control. Now, eventually, you do see troughs trying to drop down into the eastern part of the United States later that week, and that kind of breaks it as far as the heat wave is concerned. And in fact, that break may actually, if the model is right, might actually come with some much cooler air for a day or two. So keep your fingers crossed on that. But I think at this point it's just a matter of trying to figure out the timing of these dry lines that are going to come through and knock the dew points down, but do nothing as far as knocking the temperatures down, or do very little.
Our dear friend David Fuller says, keep the blue up there.
Well, it won't be up there forever. Eventually, all patterns break down. So eventually, this too shall pass and break down.
Yes.
It's just a question of where. And by the way, the tropics are absolutely dead through this entire period. So, from what I'm seeing,
but it kind of, you say they're dead now, but as I've been saying, the main purpose for a tropical storm or hurricane is to get rid of all of that surplus heat, and you have to believe that over the oceans, especially, that heat is just continuing to build and build and build, and eventually things are just going to just bust out or break out with activity. If not in the next few days, obviously not, but in the coming weeks, later on in August and into September, it could turn out to be and as I said, on average, by the end of July over the last 10 years, we have had the formation of 14 named storms during August, September, October, even into November. So you have to figure that we're in for some busy times in terms of tropical activity. If not, again, right now, more likely later in August and on into September.
I think once you break down what's been a semi-permanent feature of that upper high where it's set up this summer in the plains in the Mississippi Valley, once that breaks down, I think that's going to be part of an overall rearranging of the pattern across North America and the North Atlantic and in the Pacific. And with that, that's when you'll start to see tropical cyclone development. Now, I brought up the 2-meter temperature maps on the GFS So just to give you an idea here with regards to temperatures, and I'm using the 2 p.m. map because they go in 6-hour increments. So this is Saturday, and you can see on Saturday, well, actually tomorrow's Friday, so might as well show Friday. You can see the temperatures well up into the 90s in the Carolinas, southern in Georgia, across the Gulf states back through Texas. But it's a lot better up in the Dakotas and down and through Kansas. And by the way, you can see the impact of where it's been raining because you've got this little stripe here where temperatures aren't getting out of the 70s, or at best, at most, they're up in the low 80s. So the rain is having some impact on holding temperatures down in that frontal boundary. And now on Saturday, you start to see the heat from the west sort of comes over the top and goes into the northern plains. You've got this area in the middle with the old frontal boundary where it's cooler, and then you've got the hot weather across the Gulf states. Meanwhile, we're in the 80s here over the weekend. So now here's Sunday, now here's Monday, and you see a few 90s there on Monday in southern New England. And you start to see the 90s now spreading back across Kansas. And now on Tuesday of next week, you've got 90s up into New England. You've got 100-degree plus temperatures all the way up into the Dakotas. Wednesday, a big area of hundreds up from Texas to the Dakotas, 90s fingering up the eastern seaboard. Thursday, more 90s pushing up further north into New England, and now you see the 100-degree readings coming over, moving northeastward into Illinois, into Michigan, into Chicago, Detroit. Then on Friday of next week, you've got well into the 90s, up the East Coast, up into Maine. The hundreds begin to disappear back through the plains. Now, next Saturday, still holding on to temperatures near 90, and the hundreds back up, shooting up into the northern plains. Next Sunday, again, this is part of maybe if we get a break with a trough that comes in between, and then the heat ridge starts to build back. Now we're into the week of August 8th, and the heat comes back. And you see it here. Now we saw Tuesday. This is next Wednesday. Now we're at August 10th. And then after that, now what is that? Wait a minute. That can't be right. Something's wrong. Look at this, Joe. It's got 50s here at 18Z at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursday, August 11th. It's got 50s in southern New England down into New Jersey. That can't possibly be correct. You can only hope and pray that that was correct, but for the middle of the afternoon. Now that's got to be some sort of computer graphic error. But you get the idea here, folks. We got to figure out these dry lines and when they come through. So that'll determine whether we have days and days in a row of 90 plus with a couple of 100-degree days thrown in there in the mix, or is it going to be is it going to be continuous, or is it going to be where we get a day or two break in between? That's the biggest challenge in the forecast going forward, because it ain't rain, that's for sure.
Oh, well, I'll be rooting for those temperatures in the 50s. That'll be nice. My air conditioning will appreciate the break by then, if it hasn't already broken.
Correct. So let's just take a look at this for tomorrow. So we've this 1 week weather front that's moving through tonight. We've got another second front that comes through tomorrow, but severe weather risk actually is to the south tomorrow across the mid-Atlantic states and not to the north. And then that high just sort of disappears. And then we bring, by the way, you could see that the rain, that east-west band of rain, that precip there across the lower Ohio and Tennessee Valley and back into Oklahoma and Kansas, they're getting some drought relief in some of the drier areas there as you get into the southern plains. Starts to shift that rain a little bit further to the south into to me. I actually could use some because I'm really tired of watering my plants every day. And then, of course, as we go into next week, Tuesday, there's a front with maybe some showers and thunderstorms. Then there's hot air behind it. And then this is now next Friday night, where there's a more significant front that it tries to push through into that 100-degree air, and you get showers and thunderstorms ahead of that. And then we'll see if that's real or not. It probably is real to some extent. It's a matter of whether it's more which model is overdoing it or underdoing it, and we'll figure that noise out when we get there. Storm Prediction Center, just really quickly, we'll just go look at some severe weather issues as we take a look at what's going on now, especially in the Northeast. We've got this severe thunderstorm watch that, as of 8:08 Eastern Time, continues to get whittled down in parts of New Hampshire and Massachusetts. Otherwise, you see where the marginal risk is for the rest of the overnight. For tomorrow, we have a slight risk of severe weather being indicated for a portion of the mid-Atlantic from Delaware down into eastern Virginia. The marginal risk from Atlantic City to right along the Pennsylvania-Maryland line, and then, of course, the marginal risk goes all the way back to Arkansas to southern Missouri. And on day 3, which is Saturday into Sunday, no severe weather is being forecast and no thunderstorms are being forecast. At least from that standpoint, for folks who want a nice weekend in the Northeast with no rain issues, you're going to get it for the most part. And as far as rainfall is concerned, I'm just going to put up the 7-day here, and you can see the big rains. Much of what you see across the middle here is front end loaded, but still getting mega inches of rain from southern Kansas and northern Oklahoma, but particularly as you get into Arkansas, northern Arkansas, southern Missouri, into Kentucky, Tennessee, and right into the west side of the Appalachians there from West Virginia down to just about to me, where three or more inches of rain. That's where the boundary is of 3 inches plus. And as you said, you had places there in Kentucky that wound up with a foot plus, and there's going to be more in the coming days to put on top of those amounts.
Yeah, and I agree with you about the upcoming weekend, although, again, let's stress that it's going to be more of a lowering humidity pattern that'll make it comfortable, not so much heat. For example, for the lower Hudson Valley on Saturday, I'm predicting high temperatures, Joe, of 84 to 90. 84 to 90, with dew point, though, dropping. We have dew points right now out there. It's like in the 60s to near 70.
Right.
The dew point will only be around 54, I think, or 55 on Saturday. So that's okay. Sunday, the humidity or the dew points start climbing back into the upper 50s. The temperatures are about the same, 80s to near 90. Again, it's not going to be cool. It's not going to be one of those, pleasantly dry and cool. It's not going to be anything like that. If you're planning a barbecue or a beach or a pool party, this is the weekend. Temperatures will be, again, well into the 80s. But again, the big thing is going to be the drop in the humidity. And then by Monday, it's all over. The humidity is back in full. Temperatures will be back at to above 90. And by later next week, as we've mentioned, temperatures likely will be in the 95 to 100 degree range, probably for Thursday, for Friday, and into the start of next weekend on Saturday. Dew points probably, again, in the 60s. Again, there's a little weather front that's going to move on through on Tuesday, and that might flatten or put a dent in the humidity slightly for Tuesday, Wednesday, but then it comes right back up again for Thursday and Friday.
Brandon Doherty hitting Super Chat tonight. Thank you, Brandon. Most appreciated. Hope everything is going well by you. And I think I got everybody else. I just want to make sure I got all the Super Chat hits. I think I got them all. Okay. Excellent. So, trying to see if there's any. I was just looking at the Eastern Pacific. I mean, you have Tropical Storm Frank and Tropical Storm Georgette way out in the open waters of the Pacific. They are not going to do anything to anyone. Frank may become a hurricane. Georgette is so close to Frank that it's sort of not going anywhere in the next 5 days. It just meanders within a 300-mile radius of where it is now. So again, it's out in the middle of the Pacific, and it's not going to have any impact. William Uber asks on in the northern hemisphere ice map. I have to find. I know I got it bookmarked somewhere. There is On the northern hemisphere, there is still a large area of ice. Another 30 days left until it starts freezing again. Yeah, I have been told, at least, certainly on the side towards Siberia, that the ice is at its highest level in, I think, 10 years or something. So yeah, pretty soon um, that ice is going to start spreading. You're exactly correct. We're not that far. We're at the peak now, Joe. Starting in about another week, a little over a week. Uh, we're going to that's when the average temperatures begin to go down slowly, but they do begin to go down
Right.
in another 10 days, 8 or 9 or 10 days. So we're at the pinnacle. We're at the apex of the summer averages, and then it's downhill from there, only to hit
Yes,
bottom.
you'll notice as soon as we get past the first week of August that the afternoons are getting very quickly darker, and no longer do we have bright daylight or bright twilight conditions at 8:30, and yeah, and then that continued shortening of the days, especially noticeable as we get into late August, September, and once we're into October, that's it. It's you start prepping for the start prepping for the winter season.
Now I'm just pulling up. I can't even see it. Hang on here. I'm trying to I got a loop here of the Eastern Pacific. All right, hang on. Oh, I can't tell if this is. Oh, okay. I think I got it figured out now. So it's a little hard to pick out on this satellite loop, but I'm going to bring this loop up because David Schwartz was asking about tropical storms Frank and Georgette, if they're doing some sort of Fujiwara. Actually, Georgette is so close to Frank that I'm surprised that it hasn't been. I'm surprised that Frank hasn't absorbed it. But let me add a few extra frames here. See a longer loop. But there we go. So we'll put a few extra frames. So, well, in theory, we'll put a few extra frames. It's trying to load. Right now, we've got a big white screen. Oh, there it is. Okay, so here is her tropical storm Frank. Definitely the uh, better looking of the two. And this is Georgette, which is very small. And that is it's pretty close here. It's only maybe they're only about, I don't know, 300 miles apart. So they're not really doing a Fujiwara so much. Frank's circulation is much larger, so it seems to be dominating. They're both moving to the west northwest. So at least at this point, they're not doing a Fujiwara. But I think as Frank becomes even stronger and moves northwestward in another day or so, you probably might start to see, based on the forecast, you'll start to see this Georgette, if it holds together, do some sort of a clockwise loop. In fact, you can already see these clouds up to the northwest of it are moving northwest to southeast. Not just the clouds around the circulation, but all the other clouds are the surrounding area. So that's probably how that's going to play out in the coming days. But again, it's all, it's not as if any of these things are going to go to Hawaii or to Mexico or to Baja California. They're just going to stay out there and do whatever it is, you know, in the Pacific Ocean, whatever it is they do, which is usually just die off. So anyway, how about we do a little Briller Jeopardy and then wrap it up so that we can start our 4-day holiday weekend.
By the way, I have some other photographs of Georgette that you might want to share with the.
Oh, yes, exactly. I was thinking the same thing.
And there you are, Georgia. Sadly, Georgia Engel passed away a few years ago. I saw her on Broadway.
So did
I forgot
I.
what the play. I
I
forgot
saw.
what the play was.
I didn't know. I actually saw her on Broadway, walking on Broadway, because I was walking on
Oh,
Broadway. I passed her by. She passed me by. I passed her by, and I was like, "That's Georgette."
yeah.
For
All
those of
right.
you who don't know or are just too young, we're talking about Georgette from the Mary Tyler Moore Show. If you're um, not that old, you might remember her. She played Amy's mom on Everybody Loves Raymond. So
Right.
that's who we're talking about. Okay,
Right. let's
do a little.
Well, actually, this is not, and this is a Briller Jeopardy that doesn't really have. This is more of Briller opinion as opposed to Briller Jeopardy because there's
Okay.
no distinct answers to any of these questions. The chairman writes that we try a different type of topic that the chat room will enjoy playing along with Mr. Chiaffi.
All right.
Category.
Just one second before you start. Riza Saba on the zip code is 08902. I don't know where that is. Why are we not getting rain? All the storms with high moisture come our way. They split north and south. Let me just see where this 08952 zip code is. Okay. Oh, in New Jersey, in New Brunswick. Okay. I mean, I know the zip code. For example, if your zip code was 60609, I would know that. Joe even knows the zip code for 60609.
Yes.
Uh,
Spiegel,
the
Chicago,
Spiegel Catalog Company,
Illinois.
Spiegel, Chicago, Illinois, 60609. No, look, it's just the nature of weather. Every year in the wintertime, for example, there's always a snow hole where it snows all around you, but for some particular reason in your particular geographic area, you wind up getting less than everybody else. And the same thing happens with summertime thunderstorms. Sometimes you get them and sometimes you don't. And this year, there haven't really we haven't really had any wide days with widespread activity in quite a while. So you get these scattered storms, and you're when you mentioned about moisture content, yeah, it could be very humid, but if you don't have the mechanisms upstairs in order to trigger off these thunderstorms, you just won't get them. I mean, they just won't develop. So you can have all the heat and humidity you want, but if you don't have something in the upper atmosphere that's going to initiate a really unstable atmosphere, you won't get the thunderstorm development. So I hope that answers your question, and welcome to the chat board. I appreciate the question and love the fact that you're participating in the conversation. Okay, now go ahead. Let's go ahead with.
All of a sudden, all of a sudden, you triggered with that question from that person in New Jersey. You triggered a memory that I had not thought about in like 50 more than 50 years. Do you remember a cartoon? It was part of the same group that produced Casper the Friendly Ghost and Herman and Catnip.
Mm-hmm.
Little Audrey. Remember Little Audrey?
Yes.
And there was one episode of Little Audrey where she's looking out the window and it's raining and she wants to go out and play and she makes a wish. She says, "I wish it would never, ever, ever rain again." And all of a sudden the rain stops and turns bright and sunny. But now, and you get the impression that this has gone on for like 100 days or something.
Right.
That like everything is dried out, everything is burned up. There's one guy I remember. He crawls to a house and knocks on the door, and like a little opening, and then you see two eyes, and the guy says, "Yeah, what do you want?" And like the guy who's like on his knees, "Joe sent me," and he gives him an eyedropper's worth of water. And
I seem to remember that. I seem to have,
Yeah.
you're triggering memories. I seem to remember that particular cartoon episode.
Water. And now you see little
Excuse
Audrey,
me.
and she's looking at her flowers. She's looking at her flowers, and they're all like.
I know,
like,
with the eyes and the nose. Yeah, they're all.
And now she somehow manages to figure out where the rainmaker. And this is probably why this can never be shown on television,
Yeah.
because it may imply God or the great creator of the world and the universe. She goes to the rainmaker, who looks like this gigantic big guy,
Yeah,
and
I remember
pleads,
this.
and she pleads with the rainmaker, "Oh, please, my flowers need showers." And the rainmaker says, "Pish, pish, a wish is a wish." And so And then all of a sudden,
Pish, pish. A
she gets
wish is a
she gets
wish.
she gets on her knee and she starts singing a la Al Jolson, "Those April showers
Oh, God.
come your way." But she's singing it in such a way that the rainmaker starts to look like he's sad and everything else. He starts to go, "Oh, flowers, daffodils," and now she starts peeling onions.
Yeah.
And now the rainmaker starts to cry. But he doesn't just cry, he cries so much that he creates a veritable downpour, a torrential downpour. Now Audrey like slides back to earth in a boat or I don't know what. And you see the flowers, her flowers there, and you could see them all going like wow, water, water.
Yeah.
And that's how the cartoon ends. And I remember, and again when she triggered like when is it ever going to rain again? All of a sudden I thought about that cartoon about how you know the drought broke and the rainmaker started to cry and all the rain came down. But I don't know if you remember that. You have to be of a certain
I
age to
remember it. I
that.
actually remember that particular cartoon. Chuck
You
Cardillo
probably can find it.
Yeah,
You
I'm
probably
sure
can
it's
find it if you go on YouTube.
Chuck Cardillo hitting super chat tonight, Joe. He says, enjoy your well-deserved time off. Thank you for the kind words, by the way. And Chuck.
Steve
And Steve
LaPointe, too.
LaPointe also hitting super chat tonight. Thank you, Steve. I hope everything is well by you. Okay, let's roll. Come on, let's do this.
Okay, here we go. So tonight on Umbrella Jeopardy, we try a different type of topic. The chat room will enjoy playing along with Mr. Chiaffi. Category: what is likely to happen first at Central Park? 1. What is likely to happen first? A high temperature greater or exceeding the record of 106, or a low temperature lower than the record -15. I think you and I both will agree, Joe, that it's probably going to be the former as opposed to the latter if it does happen at all.
Yeah, as much as I would just kind of like to see the latter. You know what? I wonder whether either one lifetime, but I think there's a possibility that neither of them happen. So I'm going to actually vote. That's quite possible, unless the European from 2 days ago is correct with those ridiculous 110-degree highs. I'm actually going to say that. I mean, if I had to pick one, I'll pick the 106. But on the other hand, Joe, Central Park, with the where they take the obs, they run cool by several degrees. So you wonder whether you'll get where Newark will get to 106 or 107, and LaGuardia maybe gets to 106 or 7, but the park maybe only gets to 102, 103. That's always possible.
Right, and I was there. I was there last February. I took a visit to, for the first time in my life, I saw Belvedere Castle in person, and they are in a very, now there weren't any leaves on the trees back in February, but I can assure you that if those trees are growing the way they should, there's probably a lot of foliage out there, which is probably making for a rather large area of shade and helps to cool down the area around the instruments. Mm-hmm. So you're right. You're probably right. So
David,
now here's another.
Wait, just really quick. David Fuller hit super chat again. It says, "Will I deal with fog on the beach tomorrow?" I'm going to say no, because the wind is going to be more from the west. So I will say no, David. And Mark G hitting super chat, wishing us both a nice, great extended weekend. Thank you. We will enjoy it. Okay, go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
Yes. What extreme weather record will fall first? Central Park, 3 consecutive days above 100. And again, if that GFS scenario works out, then we might be doing it sooner than later. Or Central Park, 4 consecutive nights below 0. Oh, I can't even remember when
I would say I would definitely go with the first one.
Yeah. All right. Number 3. What will happen first? Central Park hitting 100 last in 2012, or going below 0 last time 2016. So I tell you, we may have a shot at the triple digits at Central Park by as soon as next week, late next week.
Right, but look, if it doesn't happen in the next couple of weeks, although there are instances where in early September where we've gone to 100. I mean, if it doesn't happen in the next couple of weeks, then the answer may be the below 0 in Central Park, because We're running out of time here, but yeah, I would guess probably, if I had to pick one, yeah, the 100.
What's more likely to happen first in New York City? God help us all. An EF4 tornado or a Category 4 hurricane. And God, I hope we don't see either one of those.
Yeah, that's another one. That's another one where I could easily say neither one. I don't think you have the dynamics to have. I mean, you don't really have the physics of the atmosphere and the ocean water temperatures the way they are. I mean, you'd have to have a repeat of the 1938 hurricane screaming at up the coast at 60 or 70 miles an hour. At which point, it's not really considered a tropical system. It becomes one of those. It's a post-tropical, kind of like Sandy was. Uh, I think if I had to choose between the two, since we know we could have a category, the 38 hurricane was considered, I believe, a category 3 hurricane when it made landfall in terms of the damage it produced. So I suppose if you have something that's accelerating at 50, 60, or 70 miles an hour,
Forward
you
speed. Yeah.
forward speed, uh, I think that's more likely to. I think the chances are very low, but I think you would see that before you would see an EF4.
Okay. The final question. Here's the bonus. Central Park all-time snowfall 27.5 inches. Will that record fall in the next 5 years?
You know what? I'm going to say yes.
You
Whoa.
know,
Whoa.
what?
That was a big clap of thunder I just heard.
Oh, well then maybe we should just get this
No,
get out of
that
here
was a
quick.
big clap of thunder. Yeah, that was thunder. Let me just check the
Yeah.
radar really quick. Uh,
And
there's a
Brenda,
couple of small
Mark G,
small cells near me. Yeah, we should.
Mark G, thank you for super chats. And Brendan Doherty, I have no idea what you're talking about. He says, okay, let's do it again on Tuesday. Tuesday is, and he has in capital letters, payday for the Joes. Payday?
Oh well, Tuesday's somebody's birthday, right?
Oh yes, you didn't say that to anybody, did you?
Not until I just said it now.
Oh, all right.
I just
It's
said it
my
now.
it's my boxcar birthday.
Oh, boxcars.
Yeah.
Well, at least you don't have to fill out the Medicare form anymore.
that's that's coming up on you for
Yeah,
you
that's a year from now.
oh, that's going to be
A
so
year
much
fr
fun.
a year from now, I'm going to be doing it. So
It'll be so much fun. You're just going to love it, Joe.
I'm sure.
Especially trying to figure out about not just part A and B, but also part C with the prescription coverage and all that stuff. Oh, let me tell you, you're gonna just enjoy it. And also on Wednesday of next week, August the 3rd, marks an auspicious day for Bernard and I. That'll mark 20 years that we have been in this house. We were in Levittown, Long Island. We had a house in Levittown for 15 years, but we've been in this house for 20. And prior to Levittown, we were in a little apartment in Franklin Square for 3 years. So we've moved around a bit, but this has been our abode for 2 decades as of next Wednesday. So
By
lovely.
the way, Mark DeCiara says DeCiara says severe thunderstorm warning for Philadelphia, Philly, Camden, Cherry Hill uh, at the moment. Let me just very quickly, I'll bring up the Fort Dix radar. IX and take a look. Ah, yes, indeed. Hold on. There we go. So there's what.
Mark
Oh,
DiChiara says, I remember Joe Rayo. You don't have to remember him. I'm here.
yeah, exactly. There's the Fort Dix radar right now as of 8:33 Eastern Time. Is it that line? Nice looking little line there moving across southeastern Pennsylvania. There was a severe thunderstorm warning in the box, but they looks like it went up and then they took it down. So, but the thunderstorms are holding together and they're moving into southwestern New Jersey. So maybe they'll, from the standpoint of rain, at least it's something. So maybe they'll hold together as they move along. I am going to.
And I can't believe the showers and storms north and west of me driveling up.
Yep.
So once again, it looks like an invisible glass dome over Rancho Rayo, and no precipitation for us tonight, and God knows tomorrow and beyond. Again, everything's going to dry up and burn out.
Well, I'm going to go watch a few episodes of Perry. I'm in season 7 now. Um, so I got season 7, season 8, and season 9. So I'm 2/3 of the way through. Everybody have a great weekend. Again, we're not going to be here until Tuesday. So enjoy the next 4 days, and we'll see you next Tuesday night when it's uh, Joe Rayo's boxcar birthday.
No comment.
Yes. Good night,
I'm an old.
everybody.
I'm old. I'm old. I'm
Er,
old, ladies and gentlemen. I'm
older.
old. Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.